Team, the Jacksonville Jaguars, have a ton to play for, and there's some individuals that have a ton to play for too, and it starts this weekend against the Chargers.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up? I am Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast. As a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network. Welcome to you to Locked On Jaguars, and we'd like to thank you for making us your first listen. We appreciate the everydayers that join us each and every day here. You can do the same thing. All you got to do is just tap in, man, so you don't miss an episode wherever you watch or listen to your podcast, like the one that you're listening to right now or watching. And today's podcast is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. We don't take y'all for granted here, man. We appreciate y'all joining us here on Locked On Jaguars. You made us #1, man, and we definitely appreciate it. Let me give you a quick rundown on what is going on today. This is the most critical game of the year. I know it sounds cliche to say that, but it is, because it's the next one. That's probably a little bit cliche too, but that's just the way it goes. Sometimes you got to give them a little coach speak or a little podcast speak. We'll talk about that at the end, right in the middle. Yay or nay on certain re-ups. When I say re-up, I know some people who grew up where I grew up from the streets. They say, what are you talking about, re-up? Yeah, I'm talking about re-signing football players, Jack. Re-signing football players, all right? And playing for the playoffs and extensions, that's where we're going to start off, because two things can be right at the same time. The Jaguars have a lot to play for. They're trying to – this is a situation where they don't have a first-round pick. Ain't nobody worried about what they're going to get next year. Everybody's worried about what they're going to be able to do right now. And there's some dudes that are auditioning. Some of them ain't even up for contracts, but it's almost like it's a weekly audition. Just like they're always trying to replace you, you should always be trying to make sure that you're irreplaceable. I like that song, To the Left, to the Left. But here we go. There are people that are playing for stuff. Them playing for stuff like extensions and more money and a home in their future, they have a platform to do that. And that is, right now, the Jaguars are, if the playoffs were to start today, they'd be in it. But if they lose Sunday, that probably won't be true. But they're playing another team that would also be in it as the 5th or the 6th seed in the Chargers. On their schedule, they have other teams that have things to play for. I know they played the Titans twice, and we ain't talking about them. We talking about the Colts and other teams, Denver. There's a lot of teams that have things to play for from a team perspective, and the Jaguars are one of them. They want to see how high they can go this year and possibly try to make a run at it. It doesn't seem like they're a Super Bowl champion caliber team right now, but you never know what can happen. They got really, really hot in 2017 when they didn't look like a Super Bowl. They lost their last game of the year. They lost a couple of them. I think they got beat. I know they got beat by the 49ers. They got blown out by the 49ers in 2017. And then I think they lost another game to the Titans. And it looked like they were headed nowhere. And then they were less than a quarter away from going to the Super Bowl. So anything could happen. So I'm telling y'all of that to say, yeah, they're, from a team perspective, they have all of their team and organizational goals to play for. But there are some people that are also playing for not only relevance, but they're playing for the potential to have this be their home moving forward. There's some guys that are headed to free agency, man, and business is the business. If those dudes play up to par, it's going to help them get their individual goals met monetarily. But that means that they will also be lifting this franchise and allowing the franchise to get to where they want to go. So I'm going to run down a list of names and a group of people. I'm going to start with Trayvon Walker. Trayvon Walker will be playing on his 5th-year option next season. Okay? They've already done it. 5th-year option, he's in. So he's going to be here next season. The key is do they decide to go ahead and give him a contract extension this year? or wait until the offseason to do it so that you're not bogged down with it at the last minute with him playing on a contract year, right? Just for context, Trevor Lawrence is playing this year on his fifth-year option. Trayvon's fifth-year option starts next season. Trevor's playing on his fifth-year option. So all the people saying they're going to get rid of a quarterback and move on and this, that, and the fourth, they don't understand. Trevor's extension doesn't start until the 2026 season. So that's the first year of his new money contract, even though I think he did get some bonus money already. You can easily look that up. But that ain't what the show is about. The show is about them having to make decisions ahead of time on some players. They can actually do that also with players that are expected to hit free agency. So I'm going to run down a quick list of names. And then when we come start segment 2, we're going to go yay or nay and explain why. I'll just go through them real quick. Jacoby Meyers, Dami Brown, Cole Van Lannon, Emmanuel Ogbah, Devin Lloyd, Travis Etienne, Andrew Wingard, Greg Newsome, Tim Patrick, Austin Johnson, Dennis Gardeck, Christian Braswell, and Monteric Brown. Those are the 14 players, according to Spot Track, that are scheduled to become free agents for the Jaguars. Now, Travis Etienne did not get his fifth-year option picked up. Oh, no, he actually is playing on his fifth-year option. That's a correction. Devin Lloyd didn't get his fifth-year option picked up. So anybody that was drafted in the first round of the year, Travis Etienne and Trevor Lawrence, they're playing on their fifth-year option. This is the fourth year for Devin Lloyd and the fourth year for Trayvon Walker. Trayvon had his picked up. Devin Lloyd did not. And then Devin Lloyd started the season off like gangbusters, right? And I'm thinking like it's a no-brainer that he's going to be kept here. Depends on what the money is, but that's probably one that they will have to try to get done before the end of the year or as we move into the offseason before the official offseason begins. You can always lock your own guys up, and I would expect that to happen. The way it's shaped up, I'm going to get these two out of the way. The way it's shaping up, I would think that you'd see Travis Etienne here too. I don't think the money's going to be crazy for Etienne or running back or a quick extension. I would expect that those two guys have already shown you enough that you want them back. As much as we like Bashal Tutin as a rookie and LaQuint Allen, they haven't really shown that they're starting caliber running backs for a team that has aspirations and goals of the playoffs and like the Jaguars. They've shown that they can be very good pieces and good players. Now, I will tell you, Bashal had me for a while until I start seeing him running into his own defenders. I can't get past that play against Seattle where it was literally an 8-foot wide gap, and he decided to run right into the back of his own people. It shook me, right? So I'm just thinking like maybe they're good players, they're good value players, but those guys aren't the type of people you really want starting for your football team. At least they haven't shown that as of this point. So we'll discuss all of that, and then it'll give us an idea too. Start shaping in your head, even though at 5-4, I'm not going to sit here and start talking about next year, but it will give you a big overall view of how some decisions are made, why certain things have to happen, because there's been a lot of talk of people thinking what the Jaguars will need in the future. So this will be a good baseline to give you an idea of what's going to be, what holes will be out there, and what things they're going to have to actually do. We'll get to all of that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. All right, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season. Whether you're following the NFL, NBA, or both, there's no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried it yet, Prize Picks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stat projections, and if you get them right, guess what? That means you win. And it takes less than 60 seconds to make that lineup up, create that lineup, and you can play anywhere Prize Picks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. I'm telling you right now, man, it's going to be a big, big week for a lot of players in the National Football League. The game in Jacksonville between the Jaguars and the Chargers, Trevor Lawrence, and that dude out there, that quarterback that gets compared to him an awful lot, Justin Herbert. somebody's going to have a real big game, and I think it's going to be Trevor. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's Locked On NFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineups. Prize Picks. It is good to be right. All right, it's yay or nay time. Yay or nay on whether you believe. I know we got a big game coming Sunday, right? Yay or nay on whether or not you believe certain players will still warrant being here for Jacksonville if they start winning. If the Jaguars they played 9 games, they have 8 left. If the Jaguars go 5-3, that puts them at 10-7, right? If they go 6-2, that puts them at 11-6. And of course, if they go 4-4, that's 9-8. That's a record we've seen before. We can always have that discussion and that debate of whether or not that's good coming off of a 4-win season. Like I said, I don't look at it that way. I look at it as games that they were in, that they played, whether they should have or could have won those games. And right now, of all of the games that they played based on their capability, I don't think they won a game that they weren't supposed to win. I don't see a Florida State beating Alabama on this schedule. I do, however, see 2 or 3 games where they lost, where I'm pretty clear they should have won. The one in Cincinnati, they should have won. They should have won last week. The big comeback by Houston. That's a game that the Jaguars should have won. And I know shoulda, coulda, woulda. If we had a fifth, we'd all be drunk and all of this stuff. But you have to try to sometimes do this and say, does their record indicate who and what they are? Well, obviously it does, but they should actually be better than that record, because I think they lost some games that they definitely should not have allowed to get away from them. So it's at least 2. I'm thinking, 7-2 as opposed to 5-4. So if you look at it from where I thought they'd be coming into the season, I mean, we all said they lost 4 games last year because Doug and Press and those guys were so terrible. So when you change those folks, it shouldn't surprise you that they're winning more than 4 games, because the biggest problem, according to everybody, was the coaching staff and the GM. So they're gone. So obviously there's going to be a boost, right? They shouldn't have the same record based on that. So how are these guys doing in a vacuum? A lot is going to be determined about how good this team is moving forward, but a lot is also going to be determined who you keep. So I'm going to look at these lists real quick. I'll pull these glasses off so I can actually see. It's weird. You got to take glasses off to see, right? Jacoby Meyers. We mentioned Etienne, and we already mentioned Devin Lloyd. Those are incumbent players. Those are guys that have been here for a while. I think it's a no-brainer that you try to keep them both off of the free agent market. I don't know that they'll do that. Jacoby Meyers, hey, show us what you're worth. I've heard rumors there's $20 million to keep him in the offseason and all of that stuff. His previous value was at $11 million according to Spotrac. Look, whatever he shows us, I like what I saw last week. If he shows us more, I think he needs to be a person that they have here and they keep here for a longer period of time. I don't see Parker Washington's name on here, by the way. So I don't know what the deal is with that, but I could swear that Parker, being a day 3 pick in his 3rd season, is a dude that should be a restricted free agent. I have to check into and look at that. But I'm just going to name the guys that's on this list already. Jacoby Meyers, show us what you got. Show us, are you a number 2 receiver? And then they got to figure out what they're going to do with Travis Hunter. And then BT, how he plays the rest of the year will make you realize whether or not you need to move or retain people, right? If it's up to me, I keep Jacoby Meyers and I let Dyami Brown walk. We haven't seen enough for the $10 million. All of that is not necessarily his fault, but it's been enough. People talking about Brian Thomas Jr.'s drops. Dyami Brown has a lot of drops too. He's in the top 10 of the league in drops. So with that being said, even though there's a 3-year age difference, I think I'd rather have Jacoby Meyers than Dyami Brown. And I think it'll probably cost you a little bit more to keep him. Emmanuel Ogbah, 32 years old at this point. This is probably his last hurrah. The Jaguar fans still saying that we need a whole bunch of pass rush. We talked about Lloyd and Etienne. Andrew Wingard. At this point, I'm thinking that the fan base, Dewey kind of outlived what people thought about it. So I'll give him some credit. And he's made some plays. He's a good guy to have on your team at the price that he wants. I don't know if that's feasible, but they like him a lot because he's still in the starting lineup. Greg Newsome, show it to me, man. Prove it to me. Prove to everyone that it's going to be worth it to keep you here on this roster after this year. At 25 years old, I think there's a real good chance that they absolutely do that. Although two other guys on the list, Christian Braswell is a restricted free agent. Monteric Brown is also 26. I think they keep Monteric above Greg Newsome. They might keep them both. Once again, this depends a whole bunch on how they feel about Travis and what they're going to do and how they're going to focus with Travis Hunter. It's also going to depend a lot about the draft. They have a whole bunch of day 2 picks, and that's usually where you find really, really good corners and safety. So a lot of that depends on that. Tim Patrick is sort of in the same He's in the same lane as De'Ami Brown to me. I don't see anything that would make me want to keep him here on the team in the future. Austin Johnson, 31-year-old interior guy, been around a long time. But one of the big needs for this team is interior pressure and all of that. I think they're going to look to upgrade that position. I don't expect him to be here. Dennis Gardeck might be, because he's provided a little bit of rush, and he's provided, and you can't gut the whole thing and run everybody off. I think he'll have a chance to come back. DeJuan Smoot is another one that I think has a chance to come back at the right price. He'll be 31 when the season starts next year. So that's something to think about. So those are the names. Those are all the guys that the Jaguars they can all use these games and this stretch run as an audition to whether or not they need to be here in the future, or whether or not they're a part of the future. Now, looking at that list, there's a lot of people that got here with this new regime, but a lot of those guys are only on 1-year deals, and the deals weren't seriously invasive as far as strapping the team down with the salary cap and making things hard for them in the future. So they did a lot of things. They took a lot of look-sees on a lot of guys. There's still a 5-4 team that was able to do that. There's not many people on that list other than the dudes that I mentioned in Devin and Travis, that if you lose them, you go, okay, we just lost a tremendous player to our team. Maybe Jacoby Meyers, but considering you only had him a week, you can't be sitting here thinking that way, right? So that means that they can now go out in another year with better cap space and what will probably be a better free agency class. I know 2026 is a better draft than 2025 in a lot of people's eyes. It's almost like you took 1-year rentals and then you were able to dump some cargo, like Tyson Campbell. You didn't have a big future for him, and he was in the first year of his deal. You went ahead and took the hit, got something back that you could take a look-see at, like Greg Newsome, if it's enough for you to keep. Now you have to independently look. Either we're going to pay that price or we're going to move on. But at least now you have options, right? You could give somebody else in free agency the money, or you could continue to build through the draft. I think they're going to cherry pick very high impact players in free agency and then use all of those draft picks to fortify the rest of the team. Believe it or not, there might be a good left tackle out there on the market this year. I saw some stuff on some lists and I could not believe it. Teams still have all of this time left to tag. But I had to note that I did see something of a pretty good left tackle prospect that probably will hit the market because of where his team is right now. We'll discuss that at the appropriate time. It's not now. But this game is very, very critical. This is the first game of a lot of games. This game, I think Sunday is going to shape a lot of people's minds on who of all of these dudes can have a tremendous impact on this team for the rest of the season and moving forward, right? So let's take a look at the critical part of this game. Let's take a look at some guys that we think can really, really, really show themselves to be approved. And I'm not telling you to close your eyes for the rest of the season. I'm not telling you it's time to move on and start thinking about the offseason. What I'm telling you is this game's going to go a long way. You're either going to be 5-5 and outside of the playoff bubble, or you are going to be 6-4, and you're going to be sitting there saying, okay, we're in the driver's seat and we're in charge of our own destiny. We'll talk about that more here in just a second on Locked On Jaguars. All right, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. The NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle, especially when the games are between two really, really good teams, right? Between queues and login screens and prices jumping all around at checkout, it can be very, very frustrating. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at their best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. I pulled up Game Time, and in just a couple of taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite NFL games as low as $100. So download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. All right, home game this week against the Chargers. Justin Herbert versus Trevor Lawrence. A lot going on, man. Banged up offensive line with the Chargers. A defensive line for the Jaguars that needs to play better and show up. Big opportunity at home to do that. Big opportunity for guys like Trayvon Walker and, of course, Josh Allen to get a little bit of the heat off of them that's been on them as of late. Devin Lloyd is going to be back for his second game, so there's a chance that you'll see improved play from Devin Lloyd, too, to be back to where he was in the first month of the season when he was the player of the month for the entire National Football League. A chance for the running game to get back going, even though the Chargers do have a nice, stout defense. But for the most part, it's just going to be an opportunity for people to make plays. Jacoby Meyers now is going to be here. I think Brian Thomas Jr. is still questionable. Even Parker Washington is questionable. So this may be a situation where Jacoby Meyers really, really has a chance to show his value, improve his value to this organization as a guy that they really would want to invest in the future. I think we've pretty much seen what and who Cole Van Lannon is. You don't just give up on guys who have played a lot of games in the NFL, though. So he's always going to be considered a depth piece, in my opinion. But Greg Newsom's going to have a shot because they are going to try to get the ball to Ladd McConkey. And, of course, if Keenan Allen is lined up on that side, he's going to have a chance to make some plays for guys that are trying to make plays. The same thing goes for Monteric Brown here with the Jags. Those are the main guys. Those are the main dudes that I think really have a chance to pull off a serious audition for moving forward with this team. Of course, we've talked about Travis Etienne. I think he's going to have a good game Sunday, and Devin Lloyd. Those are no-brainers to me. Regardless of what you see for the rest of the year, unless they just totally stink it up, I would expect the Jaguars to at least put forth the effort to keeping both of those guys on this team moving forward. I don't know about contract, the length of it and how much money it's going to take and all of that stuff, but it would seem like to me that they would want to be proactive and keep those guys around. But I think the wild card is Jacoby Meyers and then the defensive backs. Those are the guys that I think you really, really do have to watch out for. I'm thinking that the Jaguars are really, really going to address the interior of the defensive line as well as some spots on that offensive line, even wide receiver next year in both free agency and in the draft. So from a big picture perspective, this thing isn't built. It's not done. As a matter of fact, we're going to stay away from the word built and saying that it's built and we're ready to go. Shout out to Dave Caldwell for saying that foolishness. And Shad saying last season that this is the best Jaguars roster ever assembled. Shout out to Jimmy Fred and Mojo D and all of those dudes that played back in the day when it was riding Tony Brackens and Brunell and Stroud and Henderson, when this team was really, really loaded with top-heavy talent. But maybe you'll see the Jaguars put forth their best effort. I got a real funny feeling about this game because Justin Herbert seems like he struggles when he comes east. And I talked to my man Drogemeyer from Locked On Chargers. I talked to him about this very same thing when we did our crossover just yesterday, that Justin Herbert just doesn't play well here. Now, there's a lot of motivation for the Chargers to get revenge I don't know why you want to get revenge for something that happened 3 years ago, but that's all right. If that's how you move, go ahead. I think it's going to be something that can actually absolutely distract them. But I also picked the Jaguars to win on a walk-off field goal to add injury to insult. That would be 3 times in a row. They've come flying all the way over here from California only to have to fly back home with that hangover and that headache from what they'll get down here from people screaming Duval at them. So I look forward to them having a good game. I think they're going to win the game. I think they're really going to play well down the stretch. I think the grittiness will come out. I think they'll get healthy, and it'll start being a little bit more closer to what they want it to be, as opposed to what we've seen when it looks like they're a team that we don't even recognize, like in the fourth quarter against Houston and when they played the Rams over in London. They got a shot, man. They got a shot, but it's going to take key players, and some of those key players don't have long-term contracts. This is a good time. This is a good time for them to audition. This is a good time for them to earn them some money, whether it's here or somewhere else. I want them to make this a hard decision for the Jaguars to whether they have to keep or get rid of them. I want them to really, really see Devin Lloyd and Travis Etienne over the next few weeks and say, you know what, we're not even going to play around with it. Here, we're going to offer you a little something, a little free agency, just extend you for a couple of years out, put some more guaranteed money in your pocket. And don't really say it like that, because then they'll be like, oh, you're trying to get over them. But, just for context of this conversation, y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. There's opportunities for people that absolutely need to perform for their futures, whether it's here or somewhere else. And this is a good start this week. This will be a good start. You win this game, it kind of puts some good mojo back in the fans' pockets, and people can look forward to us really, really making a run. Look, they're playing relevant football in the second half of the NFL season. That's a win in and of itself. So now we just want them to go ahead and finish it out. Finishing out like I just finished out this week, but I'll be right here back at you at 4 o'clock Sunday with the post-game show, the Locked On Jaguars post-game show. And then Monday, the squad show. We're doing the squad show with the host, Emil O'Brien, and our other analyst, our player analyst, Marquise Ogden. We'll do that Monday, okay, this week. So it's just the Jags post-game immediately after the game. I'll give a short right after the game, but also about an hour before kickoff, I'm going to give you something to think about while you're headed down to the stadium. I'm going to give you a little short and tell you how I think it's going to go. Hopefully I can get it right. You can get it right by watching Locked On Jaguars each and every day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network. And I'm also on the Barbershop, which is twice a day. Well, Locked On NFL is twice a day. The Barbershop is the second half at 2 o'clock each and every day on our Locked On NFL show. Tyler Rowland is on with the morning show for all of the things that are going on around the league. And we use the clips from other guests as a way to keep you in tune on everything going around the National Football League. Don't take you for granted, man. I never do. 28 minutes here with me today on Locked On Jaguars. This is a beautiful day in North Florida. Enjoy your weekend. See you at the stadium on Sunday. Go Jags. Go Duval.